Students, since today onward, in the Economic IAS YouTube channel, you are most welcome for the expected questions from GS Economy for Civil Service Mains 2026. Because time is very limited, I will again start after this completion of expected questions for Mains 2026 GS Economy, the previous year question analysis. Now I am thinking that if I start today, then I will cover the complete GS economy. And if you listen these questions very carefully, this is my predictions and experience that you will cover your all questions in coming mains examination from GS economy. And you will get maximum marks. That's why I am starting this exercise here for your better performance in civil service mains 2026. Today I will start from national income and similarly I will complete social economy, agriculture, industry, foreign sector, finance, planning, APIO, infrastructure development and investment model. These are our area of discussion. And all expected questions from each topic I will analyze here. I will give you the structure, total content of the topic so that you can write a good answer in your mains examinations. As you know, recently there is the controversy. Our Prime Minister is saying that the Hindu growth rate should be termed as Congress government growth rate. It means again the Hindu growth rate, a burning issue. That's why you have to understand it. And expectations are very clear that rational expectations, if you think, UPSC may ask this question. Dimension may be different, but content, if you are very clear about the concept and content, you can write a good answer on this question. As you know, students, during 1950s to 80s, our national income growth rate was very low, 3.5% per year, which was termed by our Indian economist Professor Raj Krishna Hindu growth rate, because he is thinking that maximum population of India during 1950 to 80 was Hindu, and their cultural, social values are going to be determine the economic development of our economy. That's why I am thinking on a question and develop a question for you, which may be asked in 150 words, 10 marks question, and you have to write these questions within 6 minutes. What is my observation and what is my rational expectations on the basis of Hindu growth rate? They may be asked, do you think that the Hindu growth rate was not because of the Hindu social system, but because of lack of effective development planning? I again repeat, do you think that the Hindu growth rate was not because of the Hindu social system, but because of the lack of effective development planning? Student, as I discussed with you, the term Hindu growth rate coined by Dr. Raj Krishna for the period 1950 to 1980. And our national income growth rate was only 3.5%, which was very low. And he finally said it was determined by the Indian social system. If I quote you and identify the main factor of Indian social system: caste system, joint family system, and rural India. But think sharply, are these only social factors were the main determinant of economic growth? If you think economic growth or national income growth rate is a statistical fundamental variable rather than social fundamental variable. It means somewhere economic growth determined by other economic factors which were based on our economic planning rather than only on our social system. I will decode this now you can understand in multiple points and finally you can conclude that what are the main reason behind the low growth rate of Indian economy during 1950 to 1980. If you think Hindu social system was not the main cause, then you have to understand what are the logic behind it. First logic, that misleading terminology. As I recently told you, growth rate is a statistical measure rather than social measure. It means the terminology which were given by Dr. Rajkrishnan is not a rational classification. Second point which you can understand under this misleading terminology, the nations with similar social and religious conditions as India was during 1950 to 80s have the higher growth rate. Why they are having the higher growth rate than Indian economy? Because some extent they are following good quality economic policies, effective planning, rational implementation of economic policies. It may be industry, agriculture, service sector, export, import economy, economic competitiveness, etc. All policies, if they are effectively implemented and their growth rate is higher. Second point which you have to understand that under this misleading terminology. If you go back ancient India, during ancient India, India's growth rate is very high. Before British period, India's GDP growth rate, national income growth rate was very high. Per capita income is very high. If you study the Indian economy pre-independence, then you will identify that ancient time period was the India's golden period. Our economic performance was very high, and Indian social system in ancient and after this ancient up to the British period have some changes are there, but some extent religious and that social system are going to be more determinant or major factor which are not changed after the 1951. I again come on the second point and second logic why this Hindu social system was not the main cause of low growth rate, that is post 1991 economic reforms. As you know students, if you consider the time period 1951 to 1991, what are the main problem of our economy? I identified here, you can see here. Our economy was the closed economy, lack of competition is there. Our export, promotion, import, substitution means closed economic policies were there. Our industries were highly regulated on behalf of state, private capital, private entrepreneurship, foreign capital, foreign entrepreneurship were restricted to develop the country. Highly protected economy, protected market were making our domestic economy highly inefficient. They were not utilizing their capacity according to different recommendations of different committees. What they identified. Actually, during this period, our industries are working less than 50% of capacity. It may be public sector industries, they are not working efficiently, but what is our vision at that time? We are thinking that self-sufficiency in three areas. What they were? Food grain, technology, and capital can be achieved by the following closed economy. But we realized, that India's performance, as we also learned from the study of World Bank given by World Bank during the period of 1963 to 1987-88. This time period show that the performance of India's GDP growth rate was round about 2.3%. On the other hand, outward oriented economy or globalized economy, Southeast Asian economies, if I quote you, Korea, this economy performance was 7.7% per year growth rate in their GDP. But India was 2.3. It means somewhere post 1991, if you see the India GDP growth rate is being round about first decade 6 to 8%, and it reached up to 9.5% during 2007 and 8. Why the performance is improving? Recently, you can see the performance more than 7% of India GDP growth rate. Why? Because of effective policies that were based on globalization, privatization, liberalization, public sector reforms, and multiple infrastructure development done by the government. It means somewhere this logic is more important than this one. Third point, historical economic success of India, as I discussed with you, the ancient time period. It means one point is very clear, only Hindu social system was not responsible for persistent low growth rate during the time period 1950 to 80. That's why recent government, our different news channels also saying that the time period 1950 to 80 should be said as Congress government growth rate. But we should not use this term in our UPSC exam because we are the administrator, we have to be rational, and in our rational approach, we will give the rational points for the analyzing this question. Now think, role of ineffective development planning. During 1950 to 80, if you think about the planning, that is ineffective because of multiple causes. One point is excessive state control. As I discussed with you, 18 industries were reserved for the public sector. Apart from it, there is the licensing system. Maximum national importance, other industries were licensed round about, that is 17 industries were licensed by the government so that it can control. One side, monopoly of state on few some industries, they are 18, and 7 industries were licensed, rest of the for the private sector. It means our economy was excessive state control, lack of competition, lack of motivation are the fundamental factors. Second point, import substitution strategy. When you follow the import substitution means maximum tariff, quants, physical restrictions, pegged exchange rate. These are the multiple factors which are responsible for closed economy, and in closed economy performance of our economy and lack of competition are not motivating the domestic entrepreneur. It may be government or private entity to produce good quality product at low cost. Ultimate result is what? Low performance of our all over economy. Inefficient public sector, I discussed with you. Our public sector are not working up to their 50% of their capacity. Maximum are working up to 40% due to political causes. Overcrowding labor force, overcrowding management is there, and as you know about the economic quotation, too many cooks spoil the kitchen. The same thing is there. Performance of our PSUs, but after 1991, again I will like to quote here, when government introduced 4-step policy, that is dereservation, disinvestment, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding policy, and policy for the 6 PSUs, that is Board for Industrial Financial Reconstruction, and later on this MOU, that is also this Navaratna, Mini Ratna, Maharatna, more autonomy, managerial autonomy, financial autonomy. I will discuss deeply in industrial sector also, but here I am touching the point so that you can understand the point. Other point, that is low saving and low investment. Actually, student, this question is also asking, I will discuss later on. But recent my topic is that low saving, low investment is the main goal. If you consider investment rate in 1950-51 was only 5% of GDP, saving rate, investment 7%. And the scenario is not more than 18 or 19% till 1980. If our saving rate is low, high capital output ratio, means per unit of capital productivity is low due to deficiency of infrastructure, human capabilities, lack of human capital, etc. Automatically productivity is very low. That's why our growth rate was very low. Agriculture constraints were there, deficiency of agriculture infrastructure, investment, credit availability, multiple constraints were there. That's why agriculture performance, weak human capital formation development due to lack of investment on behalf of government. Now you are clear. One side you are thinking social factor, other side you are thinking economic factor during the period 1950 to 80. Then you can yourself analyze that what we are saying. Do you think that the human growth rate was not because of the human social Hindu social system, but because of the lack of effective development? Conclusion is what? If our government follow the effective development planning, then our growth rate during 1950 to 1980 definitely higher than 3.5%. As you can see, in investment model, we see Malloby's model of development, which we opted during the second plan. At the same time, wage good model, which were developed by Dr. C. N. Vakil, P. R. Brahmanand. If you compare these two models, I will discuss later this point, then definitely you will support the wage good model, which can provide highest GDP growth rate, highest performance of economy during this period, which is not achieved during 1950. It means somewhere economic planning is more responsible than. This is my conclusion. Now student, after listening the complete lecture on this topic and points on this topic, you are capable to write down a good answer. How you have to write down a good answer on this question? Now I will discuss that. Question is very clear because I have discussed the whole point. Now you have to summarize this one within 6 minutes. Writing capacity 25 words per minute. Otherwise, you can't complete your general study paper. Now think. Make the 3 para systematically. Introduce yourself very simply. During 1950 to 80, our national income growth rate was 3.5%, which was termed by Professor Raj Krishnan the Hindu growth rate because of more population of India of Hindu. But further, what you will do? You will explain and say it is low because of multiple economic rather than only social factor. Now, further in second para, this is first para. In second para, you will elaborate why social factor is not responsible for this low growth rate by giving logic. Ancient time period, other countries' performance. In third para, you will elaborate our economic policies and practices in comma, and you have to write down on this one 120 words. Means 60 words on social system, 60 words on your economic policies. And finally, you will in fourth para say simply that this is not the cultural lag effect for low growth rate. Actually, it is more because of our economic policies and lack of effective implementation of policies responsible for this low growth rate. This is sum up of your answer of this question. Students, similarly, I will discuss day by day the expected questions for 2026 civil service mains from GS economy. If you go through this complete series of the Economic IAS YouTube channel, definitely you will do the best answer in comparison to other and got the maximum marks in our Indian economic portion. Thank you, student.